Away went the old woman with her news that the master was in the house. She climbed the stairs, chuckling to herself. Her niece trotted along, her feet tumbled over each other. She leant down over his mistress and said, "Wake up, dear love, wake up, Penelope. Come and see with thine own eyes what thou'st prayed for many a long day. The master has come. He's in the house, better late than never, and he's killed the whole lot of come-marry-me-quicks, who have made themselves a nuisance, and eaten thy victuals, and plagued thy boy." Penelope was too cautious to believe this. She replied, "Nanny dear, the gods have made you mad. They can make the wisest of men foolish, and they can give good sense to the weakest mind. They have upset even you, and you are generally sound enough. Why do you mock me? I have trouble as it is, and here you come to tell me this crazy tale and wake me out of a lovely sleep when my poor eyes were fast closed. I have not had such a sleep since Odysseus went on his voyage to Ilion the accursed, which I cannot endure to name. Go away, do, and get back to your room. If any of my other women had waked me up and told me this tale, I should have sent her off in disgrace, but your age shall protect you." The old woman answered, "I don't mock thee, my love, 'tis the truth. The master has come, he's in the house, as I say, that stranger man, the one they all sneered at in hall. Telemachus knew that he was here, so it turned out, but he's a prudent one, hid his father's notions, punished the men who were above themselves, make 'em pay for their violence. That was his mind." How glad was Penelope! She sprang out of bed and flung her arms round the old woman's neck, and tears ran down her cheeks, and her words were plain enough now. "Tell me, Nanny dear, tell me truly, if he has really come home as you say, how did he get his hands on those shameless men alone by himself, and they in a crowd together, as they always were?" The old woman replied, "I saw now and I asked not. Only I heard a noise while they were being killed. We got all as far away as we could and sat in the corners and kept the doors locked, scared out of our wits, till thy son called me out of the room. His father wanted me, says he. Then I found the master standing in the middle of the corpses. They were all around him, covering the solid ground in heaps. I would have warmed thy heart to see it. Now they're all packed together by the courtyard gates, and he's fuming the hall with sulphur and a great big fire blazing. But he sent me to tell thee, come now, enter into your heart's delight and be happy together after all your troubles. Now at last the prayer is answered that was prayed so long. He is alive. He has come himself to his own hearth. He has found thee also and his son in the house, and he has taken vengeance in his own house on all the men who did him wrong." Penelope said again, "Nanny dear, don't boast too soon with all that gloating and chuckling. You know how glad we should all be to see him in this house, especially myself and my son. But there is no truth in your story. No, it is one of the immortal gods who killed these proud men. He must have been shocked by their heartbreaking violence and evil doings, for they respected no man on earth that ever met them, good or bad, and therefore they have been punished for their recklessness. But Odysseus has lost his hope of return far away from this land. He has lost himself." The old nurse answered, "My dear love, what is screed to let out o' thy pretty lips? Here's thy man in the house, but the hearthstone, and thou'lt have it he'll never come back home. But thy mind was ever unbelievin'. Look now, I'll give thee a plain manifest sign, the wound that the boar gave him with his tusk. I felt it in the washin' and wanted to tell thee, but it clips me over the mouth and won't let me utter a word. Aye, he's a clever one, a deep mind, as surely has. Come along, I'll lay my life on it. If I deceive thee, burn me alive and welcome." Penelope, still doubtful, replied, "Nanny dear, it is hard to understand the counsels of the immortal gods, even if you are a very wise woman. However, let us go to my son. I should like to see the men who plagued me and the man who slew them." Saying this, she went down the stairs with a heart full of perplexity. Should she keep aloof and question her husband? Should she go to his side and cover head and hands with her kisses? She passed over the great doorstone into the hall and seated herself opposite to Odysseus by the wall on one side of the bright fire. He was sitting against a pillar, looking down and wondering whether his brave wife would speak to him when she saw him. But she sat silent a long time as if struck dumb. Again and again she turned her eager eyes and looked hard at his face, but then again she could not know him in those dirty rags. At last Telemachus burst out impatiently, "My mother, a devil of a mother you are, with your hard heart. Why do you keep all that way from father? Why won't you sit beside him and ask some question or say something? I'm sure no other woman could be so cold and keep her husband at a distance. Now he has come home after 20 years, and all those terrible dangers. But your heart was always harder than flint." Penelope, still doubtful, answered, My boy, my heart is numbed. I cannot speak to him or ask questions, or look into his face. If he is indeed Odysseus, and this is his house, we shall know each other well enough. There are secrets that we two know, and no one else." Odysseus smiled at this. He answered at once simply and plainly, "Leave your mother alone, Telemachus, and let her test me. She will soon know me better. Now I am ragged and dirty. She looks down on me and thinks I am not the man. But we have to consider what is best to do next. If you take the life of one man in the community and he has a number of friends to avenge him afterwards, you must leave your country to escape his kinsmen. But we have destroyed the bulwark of this city, the finest lads in Ithaca. Consider that, if you please." Telemachus said with due respect, "You see to that, dear father. You have your plans ready for everything, as all the world declares, and no man living could challenge you in that." Odysseus was quite ready and replied, "Very well, I will say what I think best. First wash from head to foot and put on clean clothes, and tell the household women to dress. Let the minstrel take his harp and strike up a cheerful dance, so that the neighbors and those in the streets outside may hear it and think there is a wedding. No rumor must go abroad that these men are killed, until we can get out to the farms and the forests. After that we will consider any plan that the Olympian may put into our minds." They set about this at once. They bathed and dressed, and the women decked themselves out. The minstrel took up his harp and put them in the mood for merry dance and song. The great hall echoed to the dancing feet of women and men, and those passing by in the street said one to another, "Ha, someone has married the much-wooed lady. She's a hard one. She didn't break her heart for the husband of her youth. She might have looked after the house till he came back." They little knew what had happened. Within that house, Eurynome bathed Odysseus and rubbed him down and gave him good clothes. Then he seemed another man, taller and stronger than before, and splendid from head to foot by grace of Athena, his head covered with a thick curly crop like the thick clustering petals of the hyacinth. He was a noble and brilliant figure. You might think of some perfect work of art made by one who is inspired by the divine artist, Hephaestus and Pallas Athena, brilliant with gold over silver. He came out of the bathroom looking more like a god than a man, and returned to his former seat facing his wife. Then he said to her, "Strange woman, the inscrutable will of God has made your heart unfeeling beyond mortal woman. No other wife could endure to keep her husband at a distance when he has just returned after 20 years of dreadful perils. Very well. Come, Nanny, lay me a bed, and I will sleep alone. She has a heart of steel, it is clear." His clever wife replied, "Strange man, I am not proud or contemptuous or offended, but I know what manner of man you were when you sailed away from Ithaca. Come, Eurycleia, make the bed outside the room which he built himself. Put the fine bedstead outside, and lay out the rugs and blankets and fleeces."